How to make a pound cake. Uh, Food historians generally agree that the pound cake is a northern European recipe named for the equal weight of its ingredients. Recipes printed in the commentary American cookbooks follow the same portion, the pound. The pound connection is the obvious today, except for today we use it as in different measurements. We do cups. The American cookbook printed earlier in the decades of the 20th century also gives you the gap range of the different type of measurements and pound cakes. You can go to the next slide. I'm sorry. In the discovery of learning how the different pound cakes were actually made, we know today that we actually use loaf pans or tube pans. And back in 1747, they used what was called an earthly pan. So if you take a look at the picture there, that particular pan there is an earthly pan. There are many different types of pound cakes that are actually made. You can make a lemon pound cake, you can make the vanilla pound cake. During the early centuries, with the pounds that they made it with, of course, next slide, with a pound of butter, a pound of sugar, eggs, and vanilla, with various different recipes that you will find. And as I did the research on the foodline.com, they started as early as 1747, like I stated, with the pound cake. And in that pound cake, there was just the pound of sugar, the pound of butter, the pound of flour, and the eggs. There was no vanilla, there was no salt, and there was no rising agent that they used then. You can go to the year of 1803, 1817. In 1824, they noted in there that what they did with the butter was actually took out the salt of the butter in the pound cake so that the pound cake wouldn't be so salty. We know sometimes people use margarine instead of butter, because they don't like the salt that is actually in the butter. If you go on foodline.com, you will see the different range again as the name of the pound cakes begin to change. You would have vanilla pound cake, you would have sour cream pound cake, you would have old-fashioned pound cake, that they listed in the different types of pound cakes. For us in today's age, we use vanilla or lemon. So the instructions that I have and the recipe that I use on how to make a pound cake, I use 1 pound of butter, which equals 4 sticks of butter, 1 pound of sugar, which equals 2 cups, 1 pound of flour, which equals about 2.5 cups. Now, there are different kinds of flour that people use. Some people use regular flour, and some people use cake flour. Again, in doing the research, Paula Dean has a recipe out there. She says that you must use cake flour. Martha Stewart has a recipe out there. She says that she uses regular flour. For me, I use cake flour. So that is the difference within the cake flour. Eggs. In some of the recipes, it can call for 6 eggs. It can call for 12 eggs. Again, based on how moist you want your pound cake to be, can determine on the variations of eggs that you use. So anywhere from 12 to 6 eggs will get you a moist pound cake. I didn't put it in here, but the difference between eggs, for a baker, if you like to bake, it's better to use brown eggs than it is to use white eggs. I'm actually from the city, so I never really heard of the brown egg until my sister. My sister does a lot of baking, and being from California, all we have is eggs, and they're white eggs. Just here recently, in a couple of years that I've been here in North Carolina, about 10 years now, to where I've really seen the difference in what a brown egg can do to a cake. A tablespoon of vanilla. Vanilla is my favorite flavor, so I use vanilla instead of lemon. I don't care for lemon anything. I barely like lemonade, so I use a teaspoon of vanilla. Also in a pinch of salt. Now, in making your pound cake, you really have to follow the instructions on making your pound cake to add the ingredients together. So in order to do that, the first thing you need to do is cream your sugar and butter together. Now, when you're creaming your sugar and butter together, it should turn into crystals. When you have your cream and butter together, you will be able to see the sugar inside of the butter, and it gives it like a pasty type of feeling. Add your eggs in one at a time. A lot of people just like to crack the eggs and just throw the eggs in there. No, you really have to watch the texture of your pound cake change as it becomes the batter. Once you've added your eggs in one at a time, you're going to take just a little of salt, just really a pinch of salt, and throw it in there just to balance the flavor of what you already have. Then you have the flour. Don't just dump your flour in there as you're mixing it together. Now, if we go back to 1747, when doing my research, they actually mixed the cake with their hands because they did not have a mixer. So they took all the ingredients that they had and actually mixed it with their hand. So if we go back in time and we look, we can see, if we watch plenty of film on Indonesian people, how they still sit and mix, how Africans still sit and mix things with their hands. Today we have our big powerful mixers that sit on our cabinets, so it's easier for us to mix with these pound ingredients with our hands. So we take the flour and you add it in gradually until you have a thick batter of cake mix. After you put that together, you want to go ahead and add in your vanilla. And as that sits for just a little bit, again, you have a choice of using pans. You can probably go to the next slide. I don't know if I have hands on there. I don't, which is fine. That goes back to the famous people and the recipes that I saw, the two people that I did compare their recipes on what they use for their recipes. You have a loaf pan and you have a tin pan. So whatever you choose, just make sure that you grease your pan real good, put some flour in there, throw your cake mix in there, turn your oven on to about 300 degrees. A lot of people think the faster you cook a cake, the better it's going to be. With a pound cake, you really have to cook it kind of slow. We do it at about 300 degrees and we cook it for about 90 minutes. So, you know, if you get a cake box, it'll tell you a cake can cook in about 30 minutes. You're going to have like a chewy, gooey, ooey type of cake. So, with that being said, I did stop at Walmart and I did pick up a Paula Deen's sour pound cake. I would have sliced it, but by us being in the library, I don't know if food is allowable while we're in here. So just to give you guys an idea of what Paula Deen's sour cream pound cake tastes like, we can slice it and eat it. Any questions?
My grandmother makes pound cakes, and she says the humidity has a lot to do with the cake rise. Have you heard that or things like that?
Actually, I haven't done any research, but a lot of people say that. Again, I know altitude does play a big part. I don't know about the humidity. I used to live in Seattle, Washington, so I could tell the difference in my cake rise as far as the altitude goes there. Being in Washington, I would have to still cook a cake slower than I did, you know, being in other places. So, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever tried to modify ingredients to make it your own? You know, everybody talks about, oh, Paula Deen and Martha Stewart, and they got this and this and this.
Yes, I do. I like to cook, and I modify everything that I make. So I've tried the sour cream. Again, we're doing some of the research. It said how they even made pound cakes with fruit. And I was like, no, that's a fruit cake. But no, they said it's a pound cake that, you know, they just add fruit into the pound cake.
You said you use regular flour when you make yours?
Yes.
Have you ever tried to use the baking flour?
I did.
How do you know?
There is a big difference in the rise of the cake and also in the texture of it. So if I use regular flour, the difference that I use is that I sift my regular flour. I don't just, you know, put it in there. I'll get a sifter and I'll sift the regular flour. I don't know if you do cook a lot. You know, sometimes regular flour can have some lumps in it. So you don't want to add the lumps in it as you gradually add. So sift the flour first. Really with baking, any flour that you use, you kind of want to sift it anyway, but I'll sift it. And it's a better texture with the regular flour than the cake flour. Any more questions?
Very good.